stick around because you're going to really enjoy what our next person has to. Dr. Kat Lewis. And she's been on the show several times actually over the last couple months, just because her ability to combine spirituality and science is where I think most of us are living, fascinated by and wanting to understand. And I invited her back tonight right away because I started her course on Sunday, and something I shared with her before the show began. I'm a snob when it comes to workshops because I've taught so many, I've attended so many. And so something's got to be really, really good for me to commit my time, let alone 13 weeks, 3 hours a shot on Sundays. And her first one was on Sunday, I committed, and I'm so glad that I did. It's beautiful. And so I asked her actually to come on to share a little bit, a particular segment that I thought our audience would really appreciate because she visually and through her wisdom lays out a really beautiful description that's helping us to understand what is going on. So welcome back, Dr. Kat. And I want to shamelessly say, I hope that more of our audience members will decide to join your Sunday course. I know it started on Sunday, but a person could watch the replay, the recording of last week. So anyway, I'm doing all the talking, and now I'm going to turn it over to you to do all the talking.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think, my biggest message to the world is if we want to understand Source, God, we have to pay attention to it. And it's not something out there, it's actually right here. This seemingly empty space is God, it's Source. And science is revealing this to us. I think it's the greatest illusion has been that it's right here. And our physical body and all matter, everything that we see is made out of this space. And it seems empty, but it's really full of energy. And it is the greatest illusion that we are separate and that we are not the thing we've been looking for, which is our source, which is God. And once we start really understanding it and paying attention to it, the universe becomes alive because our state of being determines how we experience it. If we don't know that it's there, when we don't pay attention to it, our senses become immune to it. We don't experience it. So we have to open our awareness. We have to understand what reality is and then pay attention to it. And then it starts becoming alive to us. Our inner senses awaken. So we're basically open our awareness to experiencing more of what reality is. And yeah, so if we want it, if we want to include Source in our world, and in fact, I mean, that's really why our world is the way it is because we haven't understood what reality actually is. We were taught that Source was out there, apart from us, that we descended from heaven, but there is no descension. It's right here. We just have to pay attention to it, and then it becomes alive to us. Did you want me to show some of those slides that you
I
wanted?
would love that. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay, so we can start here first. And so what the course is, and what I study is basically the integration of the science of consciousness, which is Vedanta, non-dual, that we live in a non-dual reality. We experience a duality, but it's a non-dual reality. There's just one thing here, one mind. And it is manifesting as many, just like when we have a dream at night, that whole entire dream reality that you experienced occurred inside your mind. So you experienced space in the dream, you experienced other people and other objects, and you had your own dream body in the dream. But that whole reality occurred inside your consciousness, your field of awareness. And that's exactly what's going on here too, in the physical reality. So the background of reality is really consciousness. And everything, all matter, is also consciousness. It's just a manifestation of consciousness. So in Vedic science, they define consciousness as Sat-Chit-Ananda. Sat stands for existence or beingness, the isness of everything. Chit is awareness, Ananda is bliss. And once we recognize who we actually are, we experience that bliss. And so I'm going to break that down for you in just a second. But pure consciousness is not I'm going to talk about the unified field, but pure consciousness is not the unified field. It is the unmanifest infinite awareness in which the unified field, which I'll describe in just a second, manifests. So, our best physics is showing us that the material reality that we experience emerges from this fundamental field. And so space that we experience, it seems empty, but it's not empty. It's filled with energy, and energy is information. And all matter, so everything we see, including the physical body, is emerging out of this space. And what we experience as matter is not fundamentally solid, it's actually energy, it's actually light. And once we develop our inner senses, we can actually experience it that way, as that, but we have to pay attention. Okay, so, and the universe is also a holograph, a unified holographic system, meaning it's a holographic projection. So, just like your dream at night is a projection in your own mind, so is the universe. And that also means that every single point in the universe has the information of the whole, because it's just one mind. Okay, so what we experience as matter is just these tiny little units of energy vibrating. So it's a sea of infinite potential. It creates these little vortices or eddies in the field, and then we experience it as matter. So what physics is saying is basically what Vedanta is saying in a different way. So in Vedanta is the science of consciousness. It's been around for thousands of years, maybe 10,000 or more. And it really uses the unexamined logic of our own experience to show us that we are consciousness and not the physical body. You know, our best physics from Nassim Haramein at the International Space Federation is basically showing that what we experience as the universe is a pattern, a series of nested tori. And you can think of the universal mind, as this double torus. It's a self-sustaining, self-perpetuating flow of energy and information. So you can think of this as the mind inside here, and then it's a feedback, feed-forward system. And so the entire universe is within this mind, this one mind. So you can see quasars and you can see galaxies, and so Earth would be in here somewhere, and then we ourselves are within this. We are nested within this as well. Okay. So think of that field, this right here, the mind of the universe. We are inside there. So I'm going to show you how this field manifests as matter. So how does the formless become form? So the unified field is energy dense and information rich. So it's enormous amounts of energy, and it's really a sea of light, a sea of tiny units of light, photons. And then those create this toroidal pattern. So like a vortex in water. Okay, so that's how it looks separate. So if a vortex in water, if you pulled the drain in a bathtub, the vortex that starts going down, there's actually air coming up, you just can't see it. So that area where the vortex is going down, it looks like it's separate than the rest of the water, but it's made out of the same stuff, right? It's all water. And so that creates this boundary condition. And what that does is it sets up this, the dynamic of I'm here, centered here, and I experience objects out here in my toroidal field. Okay, so in physics terms, this is the unified field, and then it creates a nodal point, and when there's a nodal point in that field that manifests the torus, that's called a singularity. So that creates the perception that you're separate than the rest of the field. Okay, and then, yeah, so the double torus creates the illusion of separation. A wave is never separate from the ocean. And then you can see at the bottom of the slide what's happening is you're going from energy and information materializing into form. So as in Vedanta, you would call this the causal body, so the spark or the information that's manifesting. I lost my cursor. Can you see my cursor?
We don't try scrolling it around. No,
There it goes. Okay.
there it is.
You
It's
got it.
back.
Okay. Okay, so in Vedanta, they call that the causal body, the spark of creation, the potential, the unmanifest potential that's creating you. And then so that would be, just the potential that's creating you. And you see the body starts materializing inside this field. So this double torus, we call in Vedanta, would be the subtle body. Okay, so it's an electromagnetic field of movement and information. So this torus, this information flow here from the universal mind is also a double torus. And then we have our own double torus. And the physical body crystallizes inside there. So all form, all matter that you see has this dynamic. And then the little units that are making up our body also have this dynamic. And then we have a larger one around the body that is basically like the summation of all those tori within the physical body. So the subtle body, this torus in Vedanta, is called the mind. It's where our experience takes place. So you can think of it as a 3D holographic projection, and it feels like I'm over here and then the rest of the world is out here. But all of that is occurring inside your mind. So in Vedanta, the subtle body is the ego, the intellect, memory, all sensation. It's the pattern in which this double torus takes is a pattern displayed in the field that looks like the world that you experience. Yeah, so you can think of this as the holographic projection. It's like the screen of your mind, and your thoughts are projected onto that screen. Awakening is when we recognize that we are the field. When our consciousness recognizes that we are the field, then what happens is that sense of me and another softens. You don't have that separation anymore, because this is creating that illusion of separation. And when we recognize that we actually are the field, that we're not separate from the field, then that softens. Your double torus softens and you feel expanded into the field. So this all came from me having an experience where my whole body turned into light. But right before that happened, I felt complete oneness with the field. I was the space and everything in it. I could see it was all me. And I felt weightless. My body felt weightless. I could see it, but it felt no different than the space. So that is a state of now that happened because I came into coherence with the field. I wasn't consciously producing that state. But you can consciously produce that state once you understand the mechanics behind it. And this is where you start to understand what miracles are. Because when you're one with the field, then you have more control over how the field manifests. Okay, so that's basically what I just described. So when you recognize yourself as the field, the subject-object fragmentation collapses. So that's why I drew this torus a little bit lighter. It's just slightly lighter, so you could still see it. Attention stops scattering. You become very present. You're totally aligned with who you actually are, not the story that's in your head. The nervous system calms down and it relaxes, and you phase lock with the true self, which is the field. So energy and information stop fighting themselves because you're totally aligned. And then your experience organizes around that single center. Now, so when that happens, your torus, which is creating your experience, it flows very easily. So synchronicities happen faster. So you can think of it like when an ice skater spins, when she brings or he brings their arms into the center, they spin faster, right? There's less resistance. So when we're totally centered with who we actually are, that's what happens. Then the torus just spins. And remember, we are in the universal flow, So you begin to feel this more. And when you're not resisting life, and you're present, your inner senses turn on. Basically, what's happening is you become aware of these higher frequency domains of energy that are always here right now. And that's when the universe becomes alive. I feel energy out here. I feel it coming down. I feel it, this vortex coming down through the crown. I feel it going up. So, and I didn't feel any of this 6, 7 years ago. So this is all really new. And it all came from that experience. And I wanted to basically understand, I needed to understand how that experience happened. So I started studying the physics. I went into my spiritual heart. I discovered what the spiritual heart was because after that experience, I could feel all this energy just radiating out of my chest. And I was like, what is this? And I could feel energy out here, and everything was alive in the universe when I'd walk around, and my body felt very weightless and light, and I could take in enormous amounts of air. But after a number of months, that went away because I didn't understand enough. Because our experience of the physical reality is dependent on what we believe, who we think we are, and what the reality is. When we don't know that we live in the mind of the universe, that this is a mind, and it's our source in creating us, we don't pay attention to it. We just think it's empty space, and we don't pay any attention to it. So we have to pay attention to it. So the experience went away. Everything became more solid again. I could always feel the heart energy, but I didn't feel the energy out here. I didn't feel energy in my body other than the heart energy. But then, because I wanted to understand more, somehow I was led to the spiritual heart, and I started realizing what that energy was. I was bringing my awareness into the heart. I was starting to understand the different layers of reality, which is exactly what physics helps us understand too. And then once I started understanding that, and then I started studying the physics, all of it came back. So I feel energy all the time. I feel like everything's bouncing, everything's alive. It's really beautiful. So in physics, when we come into when we align with this, we call that coherence. In Vedanta, it's called, you go from identification with form, the physical body in the world, to identification with the field. That's when this happens. And the lived experience is that you feel effort drops. Everything just flows. Fullness arises because this energy starts expanding out of you. You feel really full. And that's why bliss appears. The experience of when we reconnect to ourselves, that's the experience, is bliss. It's beautiful. The science of awakening to this truth is a process. You know, you can have an experience like I did. That's not enlightenment. That's not the truth. Like, the reason it couldn't stick around is because I couldn't stabilize it, because in order to stabilize it, I have to understand who I actually am and what reality actually is. So that's why many people have these types of experiences, but they just go away. You can have them on plant medicines. You can have them just spontaneously, like I did. You can have them in deep meditation. But if you don't really understand on a day-to-day basis who you actually are, not as a physical body, but as consciousness and what this reality is, you can't stabilize those states. So it is a process. And that process, you're basically going from, in Vedanta, we call it ignorance. So not knowing. So you are in separation consciousness. You experience empty space. You think, I'm this individual over here, separate from everybody else. Everything else is out there. So that's separation consciousness or ignorance. And then you might hear about this. You discover this knowledge somewhere. So your mind gets open and you're curious. And so you're saying, okay, well, apparently I'm not separate, that we are connected. There's just one mind here, but I feel separate. So I'm going to learn. And so I'm trusting the information I get. So you could say that's faith. And then over time, as you keep applying the information to your daily experience, you go into a state of knowing. When you stand as awareness, you start practicing becoming one with the field, then you go into a state of knowing. Okay. And in this process of aligning to that divine mind or Christ consciousness, in order to start, one of the qualifications is you have to have a burning desire for liberation. So there's basically qualifications for enlightenment. And that is, the number one is a burning desire. Because if you don't have a burning desire to understand the truth, and truth leads you to freedom, because we are not the physical body, we are bodies of consciousness, and we are free. As that, we're free, and we always have been free. But if you don't have a burning desire for that, then you won't take the time to apply the knowledge, to learn about it. And so it just won't happen, because the world is a great illusion. So it will keep us tied to it, and we won't take the time. So we have to be dedicated, we have to be disciplined, and we have to use our discernment. And discernment is really about, in Vedanta, it's about discerning between what's real and what's apparently real. And meaning what's real is the thing that never changes, that's eternal, ever present, never born, never dies. It's unaffected, unlimited, infinite awareness. That's the only thing that's real. And then everything else, the relative reality, the dream that we experience, our dream state, as well as this dream of physical reality, is apparently real. We experience it, but it's not real. So we need to be able to discern that. So our thoughts are part of that relative reality. Our emotions are also part of that relative reality. And so those are always coming and going. So we use discernment to say, well, who I am as consciousness never changes. Thoughts are changing, emotions are changing, the world's always changing, my cells are always changing. So therefore, those are apparently real. And then as you keep applying that, that's one of the key tools in Vedic science, you keep applying that so that you can always put your attention back on you, awareness. And then over time, as you apply that knowledge, you start to remove the doubt. Because as you move through this process, there's going to be doubts. It's like, how am I not the body? How am I infinite awareness? I don't feel infinite. And so when you apply the knowledge, it starts removing that doubt. You learn how to stand as awareness, that infinite, unbounded awareness. And as you do this, you start acquiring and adopting new beliefs that are more in alignment with the actual truth of reality. And anything that happens during this process, lessons, these are basically showing us belief systems that are out of alignment. So when we find things challenging, the challenge is an indication that, oh, I must have a belief that's out of alignment with this truth, the truth of who I am, eternal, unaffected, ever-present, unlimited, blissful awareness. And then that, if you keep applying this, that leads to freedom. Because as unlimited awareness, we're never limited. It allows you to become one with the divine mind. You become more conscious that you are a co-creator. And you also experience unconditional love, not just for yourself, but for others. And so what happens as you take this path is all of these are the benefits. You become more and more aware of your misalignment, and you really feel it. So this can be a challenging part of the awakening process, because when you're out of alignment, you will really feel it. Detachment, but detachment is a good thing. Detachment in a way that it's just unconditional. You don't have any problem with anybody, with yourself. You're forgiving of yourself. You're forgiving of everybody, because you know everybody is here just doing their best and learning this too. Now, in the life and teachings of the Masters of the Far East, they said the divine science of our being is to know that we are God. And that's the path of the human experience, is to know that we are God. And if you look around at all the information that's coming out right now, especially some of the physics that's coming out, it's showing us that we are not the body, that the consciousness is the ground of all being. Everything that we see is consciousness. And that's, what some of this information is showing you tonight. We are learning this. Forgiveness, your senses attuned to these higher frequencies, so you experience how alive everything is. You release barriers to love because, and that's actually what happens. So when we unify with the field, it is the experience of love, bliss or love. You could define it as either. It's the softening of our mind, and then that allows us to unify with the field. We become more flexible, so we're just going with the flow. We're not affected by what's happening, so we don't get upset at things. We experience more freedom, joy. We really increase our vitality because the field is actually the source of us. It's the source of our bodies. And as we come into coherence with it, I showed last time that Science of Love talk, how when we come into coherence with it, that energy just propagates up through our biology. Our brain function changes, it gets better. So we increase vitality. And I showed you earlier the vortex, when it really starts spinning fluidly, that's when synchronicities happen. That's when miracles happens. We have more love for life, more knowledge, more intelligence, and we can communicate with higher intelligence, and we experience more unity with everything and everyone. So in the life and teachings of the masters, it says, he will learn to think things through. Old ideas will drop away, ideas will be adjusted. He will soon find the ease and efficiency of the system. He will learn at last to take all the questions that perplex him into the silent hour, into your heart. So he's basically describing what I just went through. It's a process of releasing old ideas. Yoda said, you must unlearn what you have learned. We were born here, we were given a subset of ideas, and we thought that's all there was, right? But those ideas didn't include that, no, God's not out there. This is God. It's right here. So
There are questions for
okay.
you. So from Dr. Laura, does the singularity create the subtle torus first, and then the emotional torus, and then the physical torus? In other words, is that the order?
Yes. Let me bring the picture up. In the subtle body, the physical body crystallizes inside there. And so that's where all your experience, so your emotions, sensations, intellect, memory, ego, all of that is within that subtle body. So this in Vedanta would be the thing that goes from incarnation to incarnation, because you're basically taking information and crystallizing a body. Okay, so different incarnations would be just different bodies, but this can also fractalize. This can fractalize. So you can think of your oversoul fractalizing into many different ones of these, producing different individuals.
Susan Bloomquist writes, Dr. Cat is our favorite Yoda. um, and so I would agree with that. And Dia Therese writes, Dr. Cat, your creativity abounds in your continuity and ability to give us these new slides. They truly make a difference in my understanding and in becoming love incarnate. I agree. These are beautiful visuals.
I think they help tremendously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's when I saw it. It's like, okay, we got to show this. Okay, we have another question from Dr. Laura for Dr. Cat. She's asking you, have you read the seven Hermetic principles? One of them is the principle of polarity or duality. How does this fold into Vedic science?
Uh, I haven't read those, so I can only imagine that it's basically taught. I mean, this is where polarity is manifesting, right? So if you have, okay, so if we look back, okay, if we just took this away, if we just had within here the double torus here. Now, by the way, I got this slide from William Brown at the International Space Federation, who got it from someone else and he can't remember who. So, and I think it was just half the torus here, and it didn't show this other half. So I created this other half. I just took an image of this and then flipped it because it is a double torus. But anyway, if you see that light in the center, so that would be
Right.
that you think of that going within here. So so consciousness or existence would be that center and then everything out here. And it's not dark, right? It's just the isness of everything. It's just hard to draw it because you can't draw it. You can't objectify it. Um, then that starts, when that becomes self-aware, it produces this, like me over here and everything else out there, right? So you could say in here it's the one, and as the one it doesn't have any experience. It's just the one, and it's everywhere. It's unbroken awareness. And then it becomes self-aware and produces the universe. And then and then there's many, this happens at all scales. It's like infinitely large and infinitely small. So even this is not really accurate because there isn't just one. It's like it's one repeating infinitely, like at all scales, as high as infinitely large and then infinitely small. I forgot. Sorry, what was the question again?
The question was about in the Hermetic principles, the principle of
Oh, okay.
polarity and
Okay.
duality.
Yeah. So as this manifests to produce this, that's polarity. You have to have uh, polarity in order to produce a subject and an object over there, right? But I don't know how they use it in Hermetic principles.
Okay. I do want to point out the fountain of youth part of it because everybody on this show is one day older than we were yesterday, and we're a week older since last week. We're all aging. And I would like you to talk a little bit about how this course it has a very practical impact on our aging process.
You wanted me to talk about that? Is that what you said?
Yes, please. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah. Sorry, my dog's barking.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
And my
yeah.
dog is totally like, where is that? Where's that happening?
So, you know, the reason our physical body ages or has any sort of dis-ease is because we are out of coherence with this truth. Okay. So the field is creating the physical body. When we are in coherence with this field, that energy propagates up because energy is information. So out the field contains the information that is our ideal blueprint. Okay. When we are shifted from that, we create disease. We create decoherence. That creates inflammation and aging. Aging is really just, or disease is really just the body aging faster than necessary. So as we come back into alignment with the field, come into coherence with the field, that energy just propagates. That energy that carries the information that is our pristine blueprint just propagates through our entire system, and we can have spontaneous healings. That's true regeneration. So what has to happen if we want to live in that state, you would be in a constant flow of regenerative energy. That is the fountain of youth. So when I had that experience, um, my body, I felt this rush of liquid electric energy. That's the way I described it then, and I still describe it that way now. And it shot right out of here, right out of my heart, and just went, whoosh, and then my whole body turned into light. Everything felt like light. So that was a profound state of coherence with the field. And I wasn't trying to do anything at the time, like in those moments that it actually happened, but I had been doing a number of practices that led me to that, into a state of resonance with the field that then produces a state of coherence. And coherence is when that energy and information propagate up through the system without interference. When we have decoherence, that creates interference. So the energy is propagating through, but it's experiencing a lot of interference, and then that's what creates disease and aging. So now that we understand the mechanism, I really believe that we're going to live a lot longer. And we're going to experience youth a lot longer. We'll live younger and stronger longer.
Absolutely. I want to encourage everybody to really discover more about Dr. Cat. And so I'm going to go to her link tree. As Almost Sharp pointed out, link tree is to the left of Joshua Tree. And her link tree is linktr.ee/ Dr. Cat Lewis, K-A-T Lewis. And I really want to encourage everybody to go there, check out her website from there, take the quiz, but most of all, click Course Spiritual Heart, the life and teachings of the Masters of the Far East. And I really would love to share this course with some of you, even kind of, share how what we're learning, how we're growing, how we're experiencing our awakening even more on the show. So I hope that some of you will decide to join. And it just started on Sunday. You can get the recording. And is there anything you'd like to share about the course as we're looking at it, Kat?
It's an integration of the physics because it helps us ground it in our experience, but also we have to take our awareness within in order to really understand all of this. Like I can show it to you, but if you don't experience it by going in, it's not going to make a difference in your life. Intellectual knowledge is not enough. We have to learn how to ground and stabilize in this state in order to truly experience everything I just shared with you tonight.
I, um, well, thank you. Thank you for helping us to all get younger. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Um, and Again, I hope some people will join the course. Stick around. I'm sure there's going to be some comments and questions that might come into you in the chat box. You'll see, people's real appreciation of what you're doing.